Mehul, I have seen you working for the past 20 years. I've watched you professionally also for more than 2 decades. And I know that you stand up for a certain code of values, certain values. I know what you stand for. And you have managed to transfer the values that you stand for to your company. So, what is your code of conduct? What is the code of honor? What is the company's culture, which is an integral part of you as a person? And how have you managed to transfer your value system to your company and the way your company is run and your team?
So every business, when it starts out, is a pretty much a family business. So we hear this term family business very often. Uh, so when you say a family business, what does it mean? To me, it doesn't mean that the founder, owner, or the family member of the founder is the one who's running the business. To me, that's not a family business. For me, a family business is one which operates like a family. Okay, so for me, the meaning is different. I mean, it could be any professional who's the CEO or chairman of the company. He's just an individual who holds that position. So just by the virtue of that person being the majority shareholder doesn't make it a family business. Uh, so I think a lot of the value systems that we have in our company is, family oriented, where we say that, we spend predominant parts of our life in the office and not at home. So our family actually, to start with, is our colleagues at work. And they're the ones that we tend to reach out to first, because they're the ones that we spend the most amount of time with. And then whatever's left outside of it is with family members at home. So I don't differentiate between the two other than the relationship perspective. But the quest has always been to be a family business with a professional orientation. And that's a very hard thing to achieve. And that's the journey or the transition that we are making as an organization. And when people ask me, why do we need to make that transition? I tell them that, look, we cannot continue to know everyone by their names, because we are growing as an organization. I think when I first started out, I knew every workman's name, his family member's name, his children's name, which school they were in, which grade they were in. Every colleague, every reportee, I knew their birthdays and made sure that I wished them. I had that time to do it. But as the organization has grown, you lose touch with that. My other struggle has always been that I've wanted people to take that mantle from me and continue to do that, but not everyone is willing to invest that kind of time. So having said that, I think as we grow in size, you have to institute certain processes, policies, systems which govern how things are to be done. And that's the professional part. So when you take out the emotions out of certain decisions, which you have to as you grow in size, you start moving in the direction of professionalizing a lot of the processes. And that's a continuous transition that we're making right now, and the biggest part of the challenge that we face. But from the family aspect is where the culture comes. And for me, respect and integrity are two very, very critical pillars of the way I operate, and I expect my colleagues and my business to operate. So there have been instances where there was, I remember a few years ago, probably 6-7 years ago, there was an incident of a sexual harassment in the organization. We were the first companies, even before prevention of sexual harassment was legislated as a law. We had, a policy towards prevention of sexual harassment. We call it POSH, which was an independent committee headed by an outsider from an NGO to head that committee. And we had one such incident or a complaint which came in, and all I needed to see was an evidence that a misconduct had happened, and it was a senior manager in the organization, and we just let him go within a few hours. of that complaint coming in. And he was holding a very critical position in the business. It was, anyone would have thought twice, because suddenly when you have a vacuum in a critical position, it affects the business. But for me, there was just no compromise on such values. So if any of my employees or any of my family members is threatened, I'm not going to stand for it. So there was one such incident that happened. There were a few other cases where we found some people who were conducting themselves in a fraudulent manner by misstating the expense statements. We had a forensic audit done. We found a few of them, just terminated them on the spot. I mean, no chance of even, giving them an opportunity to explain themselves. I mean, there's evidence, you're out. So, and I also did that to set an example in the organization that we are just very, very intolerant of such behavior. And it just worked like magic, because it's been many, many years now that such incidents have not repeated itself. And we're just known as an organization which is brutal when it comes to values. And people conform to it. So there are many, many who appreciate, and there are others who are like, just don't even think about it. So we just made sure that our women employees and men find this to be a safe environment, because that was the objective of the whole exercise. And that we expect others to conduct themselves in the way we conduct ourselves. So we would not differentiate or discriminate between others and particular individuals. So these are the two incidents where we were completely intolerant. Sometimes we have some other minor incidents where we counsel people, we counsel family members if required, and we just make sure that, like I said, the family ethos or the family culture remains intact. That we are family and we are there for each other.
Wow, that really sounds amazing. And now I understand why some of your employees, in fact, most of your employees are with you for decades. Mehul, I wanted to ask you one question, because, young organizations, startups, they always feel that they are unable to hire or retain people because they are unable to pay. They are not the highest salary masters. But in your company, you are probably not paying the highest salaries, though you do pay some of your employees well, but they may not be the highest. But there are certain reasons why your employees are with you forever. And I have seen some employees with you literally forever. What is it that you do to hold them back? It's not salary. And I think you made that very clear. So, what is it that you do to ensure that a few more things to ensure the comfort? You kept mentioning that they are comfortable. What is it that you do to make them comfortable? How do you make your workplace a high performance workplace?
So you retain people and you make them perform, like I said earlier, is only because uh, you make sure that they are in an environment which is transparent and fair. People leave, as you know, bosses and not organizations.
Yes.
So
Yes.
whenever they feel that they have been mistreated in any way, they have been treated unfairly, or they have not been given answers to their questions, they feel they've been wronged, is when people start thinking about leaving an organization. Yes. Or more pertinently, their boss. So one has to just make sure that that doesn't happen. And hence the effort by the HR team has always been to ensure that that transparency and that communication is an ongoing process. And I think that's the only way of how you retain employees. We've had many, many instances of people who have left us in a limb, just they found a pay package which was higher. They found a brand that was bigger, and they just got mesmerized by that, and they quit and they left. And within a month, they were calling us back to take them back. So there are people who are impulsive at times. They always think that grass is greener on the other side when actually it's not. They miss this environment because we've created one where people are respected and they're heard, and they are regarded for who they are as individuals. So you could be an office boy, you could be a secretary, you could be CEO, you could be anything in terms of designation, but you're treated as equal. So, for example, the guy who brings in my coffee in the morning, I mean, he will wish me a good morning and I wish him good morning back. There's no difference between who he is and who I am. And if he wishes me good morning, why would not I wish him back? So, or sometimes I'm the first one who wishes it. And a little bit of chat, so there is no differentiation in our organization based on what designation you hold in the company. Everyone is equal. And I think once someone feels that, it's not just talk, one has to feel it. And when you do, and you feel that respect, then it's not about money, I think. But like I said, times are evolving. The older employees are not as they are today. The younger generation have different choices. They have different preferences and expectations. So no matter what you do, there will be, like I said, churn, people will leave, and that's fine. So sometimes you don't want them, the ones who leave, and you realize it later that it was good that they left. Yeah. But the larger interest is always to retain employees, and we make every effort to do so, not by being the best at paying people, because I think whatever we pay our employees, if they want to leave, there'll always be someone else who's willing to pay more.
Correct.
So it's a rat race, right? I can only pay what I can afford. So we keep a very strong finger on what we can pay, and we just stay with that. And we do everything else around it to make the employee comfortable enough to stay and feel respected in this environment.
Thanks. That's a very strong.
Yeah, and one of the other ways of how we ensure that retention happens is when we had this phase where we went through, where we had a lot of our engineers leaving because they wanted to go to IT. They wanted to move to other industries where there were people paying them higher salaries, and they had other motivations to leave, and they wanted to come back after they left because they found that it was a bubble that burst very quickly for them. And some were taken back, and then there was a lot of disgruntlement in the organization when these people would come back. And I gave it a long thought, and I was like, this is not fair what we do. Once people leave, we shouldn't be taking them back, and no matter what be the reason that they left. So then I put a policy in place that no matter who leaves for whatever reason, you have no place in this organization once you leave. So make an informed decision to leave. And once you have made that decision, you are accountable and responsible for it. Like you have a choice to leave, we have a choice to take you back, and we choose not to. So every employee who has left in the last, I would say 7 to 8 years since I put that policy, we have made sure that none of them have been taken back. We get so many calls all the time. And once I put that process in place, the retention went higher. People wouldn't leave because they knew that there was no second chance. And the reason I did that also is because I wanted employees who stayed back to feel that we value them. What's the point in allowing people to leave for higher pay and then allow them to come back in again? Then the person who stayed would feel cheated. Then everyone would think that it's a great thing to do, just leave and come back, because Tega will always take you back. And I changed that. I said, nothing doing. Once you leave, you're gone. So that was something else that we did on the softer side for retention.
Very strong message, Mehul, that you gave. And I'm so glad you spoke so much about this, because in spite of being such a large company, your challenges are similar to startups where you do have people leaving for money. But now you have managed to put policies in place, but more importantly, you have managed to make your employees feel valued. And that is why your churn rate is 5%, and you value that 5% churn because you want fresh blood. Mehul, I know I've overshot my time, but I just have to ask you this one question about you as a person, you as an entrepreneur. Mehul, I've seen you for the past 20 years. I've seen how hard you've worked. And like I keep saying, that you are around in India only for maybe 5 days in a month. And otherwise, you're just traveling different countries at different time zones. You have so much of energy to do it. But I also see that you have time for yourself. You ensure that your fitness routine is in place. I remember you being an excellent drummer. I don't know whether you are still in touch with that. I know that you used to play squash, but you do give time to yourself, and it's very important for every entrepreneur to pursue what they love other than work. Of course, all entrepreneurs love their work, which is why they're entrepreneurs. But to have a life other than work, to give daily breaks to yourself, which you do in terms of ensuring that your mind, body, and soul is all three of them are fit. I need you to say something about that, because most entrepreneurs, their standard thing is, oh, I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to pursue my hobbies. I don't have time to stay fit. What do you have to say about that?
I think one can make time for anything that they want to. I think it's completely rubbish when people say they don't have time. I think if I say I don't have time, that can only mean that I'm a very poor time manager. So if I cannot take an hour out in a day, other than my 8 hours of sleep, which I value a lot, if I cannot take an hour or two out for myself in a day, um, I think I'm just managing my time very poorly. So for whatever amount of time that I spend on the road, I will always make time to work out. So even if I am in a hotel, I come back from a meeting, it's late. Um I'm still driven enough to want to go and spend that extra 45 minutes in the gym, just run treadmill or just work out or whatever, so that I can just spend some time on myself. Or if it's weekends, go play squash, tennis, swim, or whatever I can. I am a little bit of a sports enthusiast. I like going out and doing some kind of physical activity, and I need it almost every day. So and I need that because I think it works for me from a physical and a mental perspective. When I physically tire myself out, I become mentally that much more relaxed and active. So after a hard day's work, I mean, if I hit the gym late in the evening, it kind of is more therapeutic for me than anything else. And if I'm out in the mornings for a walk with my dog, I think that's just very calming and soothing. Or if I'm out playing squash, it's being competitive at a different level and enjoying myself sweating it out. I think it's very, very important that someone does something out or has interests and hobbies outside of just work. So gone are the days of being workaholic. I think it's about being managing your time more smartly. And if you're not spending time on yourself, I think you're just missing out on life. And I think we're not born here to just work. We need to enjoy life also. So I'm not talking about retiring, because I don't see myself ever retire. I think I would just probably vegetate if I was to ever do so. But I think I can just not stress enough on the fact that one has to spend time doing something that one enjoys outside of work. Otherwise, life is going to get too boring, and I see performance at work sliding if you don't take time out for yourself.
Absolutely, Mehul. Thank you so much.
So,
I really didn't think this podcast would last for so long, but it was so interesting to listen to you. And there are so many things that you've said which are easily implementable by small businesses and second generation, especially. I think the kind of things that you said for the second generation are very, very valuable. Thank you very much, Mehul. Very, very
pleasure,
insightful session. Thanks a lot.
pleasure. Take care.
Okay, then, bye.